How are we all doing today on this Thursday, May 28th? Welcome to Glenn's Dynamic Sports Corner on 12OZSportsRadio.com. I am your host, Glenn Kaplan. We are live in Baltimore, Maryland, which is home of the Baltimore Orioles and the Baltimore Ravens. Who's excited for today's show and who's excited for hockey coming back? Yes, indeed. Hockey is officially, at some point in the summer, hopefully returning, and I'm just going to jump on that in a minute. So, before I get into the hockey, I am so thrilled that at 5 p.m. on Friday here in the state of Maryland, outdoor restaurants they're going to allow seating outdoors at restaurants and all other fun stuff. And boy, oh boy, we are getting closer and closer daily to returning to our normal lives, thank God, here in this state. Thank you, Governor Hogan, for all you do. But now let me get started with the hockey stuff for this show on this 73rd show. As I've been preaching on this show for weeks, and Gary Bettman finally listened. I said, forget the regular season. Let's just jump into Stanley Cup playoffs, and here we are. And if you only had to do 16 teams, which I've been vouching for, which I thought is the right way to do the Stanley Cup playoffs, but in this situation, I guess it had to be done, because there would have been so many teams that would have been in a complete uproar had they not been participating in the 2014 tournament. Now that the playoff field is announced and now that it is set, you now can focus on the draft lottery, people could focus on betting, and now people could focus on awards, which I'm going to get onto all on this show today. Because I said it on my Twitter and my Facebook, and I also happen to share it on my Instagram account, and also my Snapchat account, that this would be for basically the hockey fans today, because this is probably a big to-do when it comes to hockey, and because it's coming back. We just don't have a date yet for it. The goal is that training camp will not open before July 1st. That's the intended goal with these training camps, July 1st, and they're hoping that these facilities, so people could practice 6 at a time within the next couple of weeks. And games will not start until the end of July, early August, which actually happens to be the same track that I'm hearing rumors that what the NBA's gonna try to do too. And don't get me started on what baseball's trying to do, but that's another story for another time. So for hockey, let me now start with this. So these are the 7 teams that are not qualifying for the postseason field. The Detroit Red Wings, the Anaheim Ducks, the Los Angeles Kings, the Buffalo Sabres, the San Jose Sharks, the Ottawa Senators, and the New Jersey Devils are the 7 teams that are not participating in this year's Stanley Cup playoffs. When you miss the playoffs with 24 teams, as I've said on this show, as I've been starting to say on this show quite a bit as of recently, your team stinks from the S to the K. That's what it is. That's what your team flat out is if you can't make it to the playoffs in this field, due to these unforeseen circumstances. Now, here's what's interesting about the draft lottery. Detroit is the favorites to get the number 1 pick, and I hope Detroit gets the number 1 pick, because it is a big-time disgrace that the Red Wings are such a horrid franchise. And they are never this bad missing the playoffs 4 straight years in a row. That is not what the Detroit hockey culture is. And I remember the good days a decade ago when the Pittsburgh Penguins and Detroit Red Wings played in the Stanley Cup Finals, and that's what Detroit misses, and it's good for the league when Detroit's in the playoffs and is good. And General Manager Steve Yzerman said yesterday he is keeping Jeff Blashill for another year. Well, he knows that coaching system better than I do, but I'm not sure if I agree with it. The Anaheim Ducks, they are a very young team. I like the direction they're heading. And another interesting team is the Los Angeles Kings. Now, I was laughing at the fact when I heard that this hockey club had a very deep farm system. I'm like, the LA Kings? Are you kidding me? I thought these guys drafted horribly. And then I saw the reason why before play stopped, they had all these young guys coming up, including the goaltender Calvin Peterson, who's projected to take over for Jonathan Quick in the near future as the starting goalie. And now what's interesting is, if you want to go young this summer for the Kings, it's now the time to put Jonathan Quick on the trade market. But the thing is, does anyone want to take his contract? And does any team need a goalie? I don't think a lot of teams need goaltenders. But that's another debate for another day. Buffalo Sabres. Oh boy, oh boy. Let's see, the Sabres. I don't understand Buffalo. That's a hockey breed. That's a hockey town over there. That's like one of the top 5 hockey cities. And I remember listening to a Buffalo fans rampage about that team. I don't understand. Buffalo should have won it all in 2007. That team was loaded. But that was the same year the Anaheim Ducks won it all. And I don't understand why Buffalo's keeping general manager Jason Botterill around. But then yet again, I guess you need some stability. And they have not done a very good job of surrounding Jack Eichel with talent. The San Jose Sharks. That's a team that needs draft picks. But the problem is, the San Jose Sharks, with the Erik Karlsson trade, it's going to the Ottawa Senators this year. So technically speaking, the Ottawa Senators can get the number 1 and 2 pick in this year's draft. And that's a way to rebuild your franchise. And basically, that's basically one way to rebuild your franchise in one summer. They drafted well with Brady Tkachuk last year, the 4th overall pick. And now you could do a cleanup if you draft things right. If you're doing it correctly, if your scouting department is right, you better get on with it. And then, last but not least, the last team that is in this NHL draft lottery is the New Jersey Devils, but they actually seem to play better when they traded away Taylor Hall. Jack Hughes needs to pop in the second year. Damn Nico Hischier. The new general manager's got some cleaning up to do. I don't like the job Ray Shero did. And another thing is, they better hire the right head coach. I've heard rumors of Gerard Gallant potentially on one of the hockey Twitter pages. That's going to be key this offseason for the Devils, and who they hire as their next general manager and their next head coach. Because if they don't get this right, they're going to be set back once again for quite a while. Despite the Devils just making it to the playoffs a couple years ago and them firing John Hines, which I personally did not agree with whatsoever. And the draft lottery is a very confusing process. So you have your 7 teams that didn't make it to the playoffs. And then you have the 8, say, Team A, Team B, so forth. That's also in the draft lottery for the first round, even though the qualifying round didn't happen. They're going to draw it, if I'm correct, it's 3 times. They're going to draw it the first time. And if any time that one of the 7 top teams for the draft lottery does not win, say, Team E is projected to get the number 1 pick, then they have to do the draft lottery all over again a second time after the qualifying round, and it will basically say, we messed up the first time. because then they would have to do it with all 15 teams. When I was reading it, it's very confusing, and it took me a few times for me to read over until I had to understand it. And I know a lot of people on Twitter and other social media platforms are absolutely confused about the NHL Draft Lottery. They're 100% confused, and I don't blame them. But it's a system I guess we got to deal with during these tough times. I'm real curious to see how the draft lottery is going to go. It's going to be on June 26th. I hope Detroit gets the 1 pick. But I would also be intrigued if Ottawa got 1 and 2. Those are the 2 things in the draft lottery. I guess you could say I'm kind of rooting for that. That would be really intriguing to watch. Or if the Devils got the number 1 pick again, you can't say they mess it up again this time, right? Or a team like Anaheim or LA or Buffalo. Buffalo could use another number 1 pick. The Sabres could definitely use another number 1 pick. I think the Kings have drafted well, and so have the Ducks. I think the team that needs the number 1 pick the most is the Red Wings. I'll tell you, if the Sharks had kept their first round pick, out of all those teams, they might have been the one because of that Stanley Cup window. That's what I felt like. So, now moving on from the confusing NHL draft lottery format. If you were not on this show on Monday, I will repeat what the playoff field is. And now that it's official, here we go. Western Conference, your top 4 seeds, number 4 Dallas Stars, number 3 Vegas Golden Knights, number 2 Colorado Avalanche, and number 1 St. Louis Blues. The only issue I have with the top 4 seeds is, and I don't like where Gary Bettman went with this whatsoever, is that these top 4 seeds are going to play each other once in a round robin, and the one with the best record gets the number 1 seed, which I absolutely 100% disagree with. First of all, the St. Louis Blues won the Central Division. They should be the number 1 seed. And they had the best record in the West. That's for starters, number 1. And you're going to tell me if Colorado goes 3-0 that they're right to fit number 1 seed? Because Colorado didn't win that division. That's going to look awfully weird to say a team won a division, but you're the number 3 or 4 seed because you didn't do well in the round robin tournament. And you're going to tell me a team like Dallas, who happened to be in 3rd place in the Central Division, we're going to say they were a better team than Colorado and St. Louis was. That's not the case. If you saw it on paper, or if you saw the games, Dallas is not as talented as those 2 teams. Dallas may be better than Vegas, but they're not better than those 2 teams within their own division. Which is why I don't mind them playing each other once, just to get their feet wet. That I'm okay with. I'm not okay with them reseeding 1 through 4. 1 through 4 should be set in stone, and that's it. It should not be this way when it comes to this reseeding. And I'll get to the Eastern Conference in a minute. So, 12-5, Chicago Blackhawks and the Edmonton Oilers. I said Edmonton in a clean sweep. 11 seed Arizona Coyotes against the number 6 seed Nashville Predators. I took the Nashville Predators. They would win in 4 or 5. 10 seed Minnesota Wild against the 7 seed Vancouver Canucks. I took the Vancouver Canucks in 4 or 5. And the number 9 seed the Winnipeg Jets against the number 8 seed Calgary Flames. I took number 8 seed Calgary Flames in 5 games. So the next seeding in the East, number 1 the Boston Bruins, number 2 the Tampa Bay Lightning, number 3 the Washington Capitals, and number 4 the Philadelphia Flyers. As I was saying about reseeding, first of all, why should a team like the Flyers have a chance at a 1 seed where they didn't even win their own division against the Capitals. And the same thing with the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Boston Bruins. Oh, and by the way, the Boston Bruins happen to be won the President's Trophy because the regular season awards thing is over. And you're going to tell the President's Trophy team to be a 4 seed and not a 1 seed, which is completely idiotic. And yes, I have a problem with it. This is the only thing about the playoff format I have an issue with, is that a true number 1 seed should not be a 3 or a 4. That should not be the case here in this situation, which I am not a fan of whatsoever. I don't understand this nonetheless. That's the only thing I'm critical about with this playoff format. Otherwise, I could live with it. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be very interesting. But don't tell me, because I'm not going to sit here this morning and say to you guys, oh, this is a fantastic way to treat the numbers 1 through 4 seeds. No, that's not. They are basically being told, screw you, the top teams, we're going to have to play a round robin, which I don't agree with. And the 2 teams that did not agree with this format is the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Carolina Hurricanes. Tampa Bay did not want this because they didn't want to buy. They wanted to play right away. And Alex Killorn made it clear, it's like, we want to play. Don't get us wrong. We just don't want to buy. And as for the Carolina Hurricanes, now I understand why Carolina didn't want this. Because they went 0-4 against the New York Rangers in the regular season. And speaking of the New York Rangers, and I go through this every time with my Uncle Frank, that they make the playoffs. He tells me all this all the time, that the Rangers are going to go far, they're going to win the whole thing, the whole 9 yards. And I'm like, here we go again. You're going to tell me this and you're going to tell me that. But I'm like, the Rangers, they always do this every year. They always find a way to mess up, just like the Dallas Cowboys. What can go wrong will go wrong. So sticking on track with these playoff seedings. So the other matchups will be 12 seed Montreal Canadiens against the number 5 seed, the Pittsburgh Penguins. And then number 11 seed New York Rangers against the number 6 seed Carolina Hurricanes. Number 10 seed the Florida Panthers against the 7 seed New York Islanders. And the number 9 seed the Columbus Blue Jackets. Number 9 seed Columbus Blue Jackets against the number 8 seed the Toronto Maple Leafs. And as I've wanted to make clear with the Flyers 4, Capitals 3, Lightning 2, and the Bruins 1. And then the Canadiens, Penguins in a 12-5, Rangers, Hurricanes 11-6, Panthers, Islanders in a 10-7. And then in a 9-8, Columbus and Toronto. So I'm excited for these matchups. And speaking of these matchups, drum roll please, and get your wallets out and get your betting Vegas lines ready, ladies and gentlemen. Because although I am not a bettor, for all you hockey guys that are into betting, I wanted to share with you the odds and who I would bet on and who I would not bet on, who I say, okay, maybe pick them, but choose wisely. But first, let's get into the odds here before I get into who I would choose. So the odds, the favorites to win it all. Boston is a plus 550. Vegas Golden Knights a plus 600. Tampa Bay plus 650. Washington and St. Louis plus 800. Colorado plus 850. Philadelphia plus 1200. Dallas and Pittsburgh plus 1500. Nashville, Edmonton, and Toronto plus 2500. Calgary plus 3000. The New York Rangers, Winnipeg, Vancouver, Arizona, and Carolina plus 5,000. Columbus, Florida, New York Islanders, and Minnesota plus 6,000. And last but not least, Montreal Canadiens and the Chicago Blackhawks to plus 10,000. Ay, ay, ay. So, first of all, these are the 6 teams And then I'm going to give you 2 extras that I would obviously bet on. So my 6 favorites to win it all. I would bet on Boston, Tampa Bay, Washington, Pittsburgh, St. Louis, and Colorado. Those are my 6 teams that I think I like to win it all. And if I had to choose 2 extra teams that I'd like to make a deep run that I would be comfortable with, in this format, I like the Calgary Flames and the Columbus Blue Jackets. I like the Flames' speed and skill. I personally think there's going to be less physicality when things come back, which puts in favor of the Calgary Flames. You got Johnny Gaudreau, Sean Monahan, Matthew Tkachuk, and I like David Rittich between the pipes. And I think speed and skill caveats towards the Calgary Flames being successful. That's where I think the Flames excel, and they do not like physicality. And the reason why I also chose Columbus. John Tortorella, phenomenal X's and O's coach. The Columbus Blue Jackets are gritty. They have not been healthy all year. Seth Jones, Zach Werenski on the blue line. Alvin Verzlankins between the pipes. And you also have Jonas Korpisalo. You also have Nick Foligno. You have Cam Atkinson. And you have some Pierre-Luc Dubois. And they're very good. Next, here's who I would choose, but pick wisely. Vegas? Excuse me, before I get into my next segment here with the who I would choose, back to Columbus, I like the way they do a lot of things, because Foligno's the captain, the heartbeat and heart soul of Columbus, and then you have John Tortorella, the head coach. And Columbus is very dangerous. I mean, they beat Tampa Bay last year in the Stanley Cup playoffs in the first round. Now, let's get into the next phase. Pick 'em, but pick 'em wisely. Vegas, pick wisely. Dallas, pick wisely. Philadelphia, Edmonton, Winnipeg, the Islanders. That's who I would pick wisely. Because for the Islanders, what I like about the Islanders is Barry Trotz implements a very good system, and Matthew Barzal is an excellent leader in the heartbeat and heart and soul of your New York Islanders. I like that a lot because he can skate from end to end, and Trotz knows how to win playoff series, and he's no stranger to the postseason. He's not a stranger. He is not a stranger to the postseason whatsoever. Last but not least, teams I would stay away from. I would stay away from Toronto. The Rangers you could kind of stay away from, but you could also pick them wisely. Vancouver, stay away. Arizona, stay away. Carolina, I would stay away from. Florida, I would stay away from. And the Wild, I would stay away from. And the Canadiens and the Blackhawks, I would stay away from. I would stay away from those teams. I really would stay away from those hockey teams. Next on my agenda is my awards for the 2019-2020 NHL season. My Jack Adams Award, the best NHL head coach, Mike Sullivan. Of the Pittsburgh Penguins. First of all, Mike Sullivan had to deal with so many injuries this year on Pittsburgh, and he did a phenomenal job. Had it not been for him, they would have potentially collapsed. They would have really collapsed this year. And no one understands how good of a coach Mike Sullivan is. From day one, he stepped in and done a phenomenal job. My Rookie of the Year, the Calder Trophy, Cale Makar of the Colorado Avalanche. 57 games, 12 goals, 38 assists, 50 points, and a plus-minus of 12. You don't understand how good Cale Makar is. He's phenomenal on the back end, and he could do so many things well. And I mean, this kid is only in his young 20s, and he's just going to get better and better and better and better as time moves on. The Norris Trophy, and this is no surprise, defenseman John Carlson of the Washington Capitals. Games, 69 games, goals 15 goals, 60 assists and 75 points, a plus-minus of 12. I was talking to a couple of friends of mine about this the other day. I like John Carlson on the back end for the Capitals. My one friend's like, do the Caps have a chance to go all the way? And I'm like, of course. I think they're really good. And John Carlson is the heartbeat, heart, and soul of that back end of the Washington Capitals. I mean, without him, that blue line is nothing. I mean, I like the way he plays. I was discussing with friends, and it's just, I like the way he plays a lot. And I also had him for fantasy hockey this year. So, yeah, it ended abruptly, the fantasy hockey season, because of the coronavirus, but I guess it is what it is. My MVP, the Hart Trophy, will go to Leon Draisaitl of the Edmonton Oilers. 71 games played, 43 goals, 67 assists, 110 points, a plus-minus of 7. Leon Draisaitl stepped up for Connor McDavid big time. Because Leon Draisaitl was an absolute beast this year. He was a beast. And he was also the heartbeat and heart and soul of the Edmonton Oilers for the time being this year, because when Connor McDavid was out, that's what happened. Because we're like, can this Draisaitl guy play? And we're like, oh, so yeah, this guy can play. He absolutely can play. And it's a shock. And there's a reason why there are guys out there that actually happen to call him the German Gretzky. And another award, the goalies, I think the Vezina, it's going to go to 2 players. Andrei Vasilevskiy and Tuukka Rask. Vasilevskiy, I think, is the best goalie in the league. He played in 52 games. And he and he started off 52. His record was 35-14-3, a 2.56 GEA, 917 save percentage, 3 shutouts. And then Tuukka Rask, 41 games starting, 41 games played, 26-8-6 record, 2.12 GAA, and a 919 save 929 save percentage, and 5 shutouts. That's crazy. So Tuukka Rask and Yaroslav Halak won the Best Goalie Tandem Award this year. And some of the other potential and the other award winners here for the 2019-2020 season. The Rocket Richard winner is Alex Ovechkin of the Washington Capitals and David Pastrnak of the Boston Bruins, who each had 48 goals. And the Boston Bruins won the President's Trophy with 100 points. So those are my awards for the 2019-2020 season, and there are going to be some. The NHL's got to figure out some other awards. And will there be an award show? Will they have an award show before the playoffs? Nonetheless, I am curious to see if they will do an award show, and if they do an award show, Great. I think they should do it virtually. But that's going to take time. We're not going to be playing until July, August. We might as well have a virtual award show. We might as well, during this time period, the regular season you said's over, get the votes out, get everything. And on to my next topic after the award show, because you're not going to do it in Vegas this year. Okay? So, here are the 10 hub cities that the NHL will go to. Potentially playing Vancouver, Toronto, Edmonton, Columbus, Los Angeles, Minnesota, St. Paul, Las Vegas, Pittsburgh, Dallas, and Chicago. So those are the 10 cities that we are going to see potentially in play. Let's break it down one by one. Vancouver. So that's the home of the Canucks. That could be a very interesting city. It's a good hockey town. But you're not going to have any fans in the arenas anyways. There's going to be no fans in the arenas. They're not going to be having fans in the arena till what? Maybe next year? And the Canucks would be very comfortable playing there. But is the NHL going to want to have teams have an advantage with these hub cities? Or they're going to have to play them at playoffs at sites where teams aren't even in the playoffs? Next, the Toronto, home of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Toronto, with the home of the Maple Leafs, that's big city. And the Maple Leafs haven't won it all in a long time. That would be very comfortable for them. But at the same time, they would probably have to play on the road too. Next up, Edmonton. Now this is one of the sites that I think Edmonton is one of the two favorites. Edmonton, I think, is going to win one of the two. Because it has the facilities, the rinks, and it doesn't have very high coronavirus cases. It does not have high coronavirus cases. Because the Oilers, it'd be the home of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. And that would be good because this will only be the second time in the playoffs in the last between 13, 14, and 15 years. It's rare for Edmonton to get back to the playoffs these days, and I'm sure they would want to take full advantage of it. And this is where I think another city next is going to hoist. Columbus, Ohio. In Columbus, Ohio. Now, I've seen on Twitter, Columbus has, okay, first of all, you got Nationwide Arena, you got these rinks. But another thing to keep an eye on is Columbus is a college town. So you got college hockey at Ohio State. So I'm sure college facilities, teams would be okay with using in the Columbus area. So you would have teams using those rinks. And I'll get into the hygiene and testing protocols later on. Next up, Los Angeles. Now, there was no way Los Angeles was going to be a hub city. After with the governors there's no way LA's going to open up. There's no way they're going to do this. There's no way they're going to do that. No. Los Angeles is actually very interesting, and they're one of the two teams, and they're not in the playoffs. So that could be maybe an automatic destination, so no team gets favoritism in the LA metro area. Next up, Minnesota, St. Paul. Another hockey town. But are you sure you're going to want to play there? You sure you're going to want to play there? What's going on right now? And no, I'm not getting started into that. I'm just going to stop it right there. But with Minnesota, another hockey town, it's got nice facilities and it's probably not far from colleges either in the Minneapolis, St. Paul area. Las Vegas. Viva Las Vegas, baby! Viva Las Vegas! And they're opening up the casinos again and whatever else in Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So Las Vegas becoming a hockey town And I remember yesterday watching her, Colin Cowherd's like, wow, Vegas is becoming this sports mantra, the whole this, the whole that, the whole 9 yards. And I couldn't agree more with Vegas becoming a sports town, because you got the Las Vegas Raiders coming next year at Alliance Stadium. And Vegas basically went to the Stanley Cup Finals in its first year, but then lost to the Washington Capitals in 5 games. And maybe that would be a place where Washington would love to go, and that would be really nice, because it would bring back fond memories for the Capitals and its fan base, and it's also its players. Next up, Pittsburgh. Now, I'm a little surprised that Pittsburgh's actually on the list. It would be nice to see Pittsburgh host, but I don't think it's happening. And yeah, I guess you could say now Governor Wolf is easing up on restrictions in the Keystone State, but I still question as whether or not Governor Wolf is actually going to allow sports in the Pennsylvania area anytime soon. So that's something to keep an eye on. Next up, Dallas. Now, Dallas, as they say, as the old songs goes, deep in the heart of Texas, right? So I like that. I like the Dallas area. And the governor down there has basically opened up everything. It's a good town. It's a country town. And they love their hockey in Dallas. Don't kid yourselves in Dallas. And yeah, I know there are no fans going to be there. But Dallas would be a very nice a very nice place to play at. And then the last city but not least is Chicago. Chicago is a very interesting town. Yeah, that's because Chicago and Illinois is starting to ease up a little bit. Chicago, I'm not sure if they're going to want to have the Blackhawks play in their own arenas. And out of all these 10 cities, and the only team that isn't in the playoffs is Los Angeles. You're going to have to figure out everything else and how you're going to want to do it. It's going to be easier probably for teams to be in the United States potentially rather than Canada. I personally think you may see Vancouver, Toronto, Edmonton locked out, because we may have a problem if guys from the United States have to go into Canada and self-quarantine for 14 days, because I know how fast the NHL is trying to get a move on this with this. They're going to try really hard and really quickly to move along with this, because they want to start this as soon as they can, and as soon as they get the green light from government officials. I know they're still trying to talk to them, still trying to make sure things are okay over there. And so now, 1 through 10, the least likeliest to the most likeliest, and then I got a question for you guys afterwards. Okay. Least likely to host. I'm saying Chicago's least likely. So they're 10. Number 9, Toronto. Number 8, Vancouver. Number 7, Pittsburgh. Number 6, I'm going to go Los Angeles. Number 5, Minnesota. Number 4, Dallas. Number 3, Vegas. Number 2, Columbus. And number 1, Edmonton. So that's what I think is going to be the case. I truly believe in that order. That's where I think from least likely to most likely we are going to see those areas be used. And here's a question that they were talking on the NHL Network, and it's interesting. I don't know if the NHL would do this. Should the NHL use 2 Western Conference cities if it feels better despite being the East, or vice versa, rather than having 1 in the West and 1 in the East? I don't know if that kind of seems to float the boat. I would think it'd make more sense if you had the West and the West and the East and the East. Or if you had the West in, say, a town like Dallas or Minnesota, fine. But don't have Pittsburgh or Philadelphia or Washington or New York go all the way to Los Angeles or Vancouver or Edmonton. Don't have that. If you want to have this, I'm okay with it. If you want to have the West in Minnesota, and if you want to have the East in Dallas, that's fine. Because that's not a ridiculous plane ride for the East teams to Dallas. But don't schlep them cross country to the other side. If you want to have two West cities, okay. But then I don't think a team like Edmonton wants to fly out to Pittsburgh. I don't think they want to fly out to Columbus. Maybe as far as they go to Chicago. But that's about it. These teams don't want to be flying out or traveling cross country. They maybe want to meet halfway in the Midwest and the Central Time Zone. Western Conference teams don't want to play in Eastern Time Zones. And Eastern Time Zone teams don't want to play in Pacific Time Zones. They simply do not want to play in those areas. That's what I think. I could be wrong. It's got to decide what the NHL's got to feel what's best. But that's not what's going to be best for these hockey teams. It simply is not going to, I don't think it's going to cut it. But then again, we're going to have to deal with this. The players, that is. So on to another couple topics hockey related before I get into a couple more not related to hockey. Hygiene protocols. Here we go. So this is going to be very interesting to watch. Because players love sharing towels. And they love sharing other items on the bench, including water bottles. But now they are not going to be allowed to share towels or drink out of their own water bottles. They're going to have hand sanitizer everywhere. Tissues, they're going to have all that stuff. They're going to have it basically everywhere. And you also got to basically wear a mask while not exercising inside the practice facility when leaving all the other stuff. So each team, the road team and all the other teams, are going to get a minimum of 100 towels. You are not allowed to shower at the arena or at the practice facility. You must shower at your own home. Because I know how much players love taking showers. And I'm trying to remember when I was watching something. It was a few years ago. I'm not sure if players like taking showers during intermissions or not. But I'm trying to remember if Patrick Hornquist of the Pittsburgh Penguins actually did that one time. I was watching a video of some sorts. That's just crazy. If players actually take showers during intermissions. But I don't know if that's actually true or not. And another thing to keep an eye on is, will there be scrums? Will there be handshakes? Will there be anything? Will there be contact? That's all going to be another interesting thing to see. I'm very curious to see. Because in the postseason, assuming they do play in the postseason, will there be handshakes after it's over? I hope there is. I mean, that's usually the tradition, but I'm not sure if they're going to do it this year because of the coronavirus. Maybe they'll just have to give elbows. Or maybe just not anything because of the sweat on their bodies, on their jerseys, on basically all this stuff. Excuse me. So, that's a hygiene protocol. Remember, this is probably only temporary. This is nothing permanent nonetheless. So, games will be starting soon. Hopefully, they're going to start sooner rather than later. But I guess this is just a plan in case. Hopefully, we're going to get hockey back. And if we don't get hockey back, then oh well. So hopefully, and if they do complete the season, they're not going to probably start next year until what, December or January at the earliest? They're not going to start till then. And then one other thing about this whole format is that they're basically undecided if they want to go reseed or not a reseed. Because they used to reseed in the playoffs before they went to a bracketed version starting in 2013, 2014. I loved when they used to reseed. I told my Uncle Frank, I'm like, I'm not a big fan of this bracketed format thing, but now maybe we're going to realize this year, yeah, we appreciate it more because of these unprecedented times. And we'll be like, I can't wait for the rivalries to return next year. And we'll even see if we could even have any this year. That'd be nice to see some rivalries kick up in the playoffs. What are you going to see right away with what? Winnipeg and Calgary in your 9-8 matchup? I would love to see it. And if we don't see it, oh well. I mean, we just got to stick with it. We just have to stick with it. That's all I can say. Just stick with it. Just be patient. We'll get it back. I'm personally not too worried at this point. I'm really not worried whatsoever at this point. So, since I've been talking so much about the game of hockey, basically, on this entire show today, and I appreciate all you guys being on air. You know how much I love all you guys. So now, for the last 46, 47 minutes I've been talking about, so now, nonetheless, let me move on to the state of New Jersey has finally opened up things. They've opened up things, and now they're allowing teams in the state of New Jersey to open up training camps again. And teams like the New York Giants and the New York Jets have been in close contact with those offices. And it seems like we are trending in the right direction for games for potentially start up soon, sometime here nonetheless. We are going to see the Giants and the Jets hopefully open up their practice facilities next week. And remember, training camp is not another 2 months away in football. It's probably, 8 weeks away? That's crazy. 8 weeks away? Are you kidding me? It's going to be football season before we know it. That's just absolutely crazy to think in my mind. That I'm sitting here on this show today basically saying we are not far away from NFL training camps opening. And I'm sitting here like, man, yeah, I felt that 2020, maybe the absolutely worst year ever, but I'm sitting here like, yeah, maybe it's almost over already. And before we know it, 2021's going to be here. I mean, that's where we're at right now. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a blink of an eye, and we're going to be in football season before we know it. And I'm finally glad that Governor Murphy, the New Jersey governor, is allowing basically teams to open up stuff again in the state. And the Giants and the Jets are not the only teams to practice in this state. Philadelphia Flyers, the Philadelphia 76ers, and so are the New Jersey Devils and other soccer teams. But the thing is, too bad for the New Jersey Devils that they're not participating in the Stanley Cup playoffs this year. Instead, they got to, pack up their lockers. They got to clean out their lockers. And they got to basically now play the waiting game for the NHL Draft Lottery. And we got to see when the 2020-21 season is going to begin. And as for the Sixers, they're going to have to get ready to potentially play in the playoffs. And so are the Philadelphia Flyers, because the Flyers are in. And the Sixers are probably going to be in. And the NBA, I know, has tweaked some stuff The NBA is trying to figure out how are we gonna play. Are we gonna do a World Cup style? Divide it, have 20 teams, have 5 tiers, and have each team play each other twice, and then the top 2 teams play each other in the best of 7 series, and then figure out the rest of the format from there? That'd be interesting to see what would happen in the NBA with that. And I know that, basically also the state of New Jersey's had, I know it's had its issues, but I've seen it's like opening things up again. And basically, they're getting, and I know they're allow outdoor commencement for high schools in there starting after July 4th. Is it July 6th, July 7th? Around that time. So we're basically easing ourselves into good vibes now, it appears. This is what we're aiming for. We are aiming for good vibes in these difficult times. And I couldn't be more thrilled to see New Jersey opening up, having these teams practice. I'm just really excited for sports to be back soon, and we're going to be on full board overload. So you know how on a phone call, it's like, sorry, I can't pick up the line right now, that my phone line's busy? Well, that's what sports is going to be. Sorry, I can't pick up the phone right now. I'm on sports overload here. We're on sports overload. We're on sports load over here, and I can't pick up the phone. Sports overload is going to be a very good thing. Boy, oh boy, cannot wait. Sports overload, sports overload. Call me crazy, but I absolutely love it. And so now, last but not least, my last topic I want to get into today is Baker Mayfield. The quarterback of the Cleveland Browns said, we got to basically put up this year or shut up this year. Because the Cleveland Browns are basically going to need to get to the playoffs or Baker's done. You got Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham Jr., Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, and you basically got what? Austin Hooper? And you got a new head coach, Kevin Stefanski, and Case Keenum's your backup. And if Baker Mayfield does not do well this year, then it's going to be a crisis. For the Cleveland Browns, are going to be like, we want a new quarterback. We want a new quarterback. You know how passionate those fans are in Cleveland. They are the most passionate fans in the entire NFL. It's them and the Pittsburgh Steelers who are 1 and 2. Baker Mayfield, 3,827 passing yards. And how many more touchdowns? 22 touchdowns and 21 interceptions I saw on the stat line this morning. Not very good. Not very good. That's not very good. Because Baker Mayfield has to elevate his game in the Cleveland Browns with an additional team. And making it in the playoffs, you got to make it. And I'm going to sit here on this Thursday morning and be like, Baker, you got to perform or you're not, or you're done. You are finished if you don't perform this year. And you better be at least the second best quarterback in your division, because I think Ben Roethlisberger is done. Potentially, if he's not healthy. You got Lamar Jackson, and you have Joe Burrow. We got to see how good Joe Burrow is going to be. Baker Mayfield is one of, let's hope he becomes a top 10 quarterback in the NFL this year. Because if he doesn't become a top 10 quarterback this year, then it's all over. Yeah, because he's what? The heartbeat and the heart and soul of the Cleveland Browns. And then you also have Odell Beckham Jr., who basically puts life in that receiving core, who is the heartbeat and heart and soul of the Cleveland Browns wide receiver group. And I'm all for leaders and looking and for heartbeat and heart and souls of teams. So, all right. Other than those, I guess my phraseologies and all this fantastic sports talks, I'm out of time here, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning in to Glenn's Dynamic Sports Corner. I'm your host, Glenn Kaplan. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend as well. I'll be back on the air at the same time on Monday. I will also go over some potential NBA and NHL topics. I will also have more about relating to the 2020 NFL Draft and schedule. I'll also have some NFL topics relating to the regular season. Maybe we'll have some more news on the MLB opening day. Ladies and gentlemen, I love you all. Be safe and be well. Enjoy your weekends.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Thursday, May 28th episode of Pete's Power Plays, hosted by the one, the only King on the Ice himself, Philly Pete, and we are live on 12 Ounce Sports and Zingo TV. This show, as usual, is sponsored by MyBookie. Live sports may feel on hold to us all, however, they are coming back very soon, but that's not the case with MyBookie. They've got tons of action for you to get in on the fun over at mybookie.ag. Whether esports or overseas baseball is your thing, they've got you covered when you use the promo code 12ounce sports. That's 12OZ sports, all one word when making a deposit. They'll match your first deposit up to $1,000. Don't feel like watching baseball at 2 o'clock in the morning? MyBookie has you covered with an online casino to scratch that itch. Go to mybookie.ag, use the promo code 12ounce sports. Once again, 12OZ sports, all one word, today for free money when making your first deposit. Also, if you're looking to freshen up your look for the summertime, you have to check out none other than the 12 Ounce Sports new line of clothing. We got everything from shirts, sweaters, beach towels, and phone cases. Find the store online today at 12ozsportsradio.com under the Our Store tab. There you will find a wide variety of clothing items, colors, and sizes that will suit your style. That's again 12ozsportsradio.com under the Our Store tab. And as usual, Seat Giant, when we can get those fans back in the stadiums. Again, not really sure if it's going to be this season, which includes football. But when we do get fans back into the stadiums, please ensure to check out Seat Giant for the best seat in the house. And also, Zingo TV. When making an account with Zingo TV, please make sure you put in 12OZ 12 ounce for the promo code part of Zingo TV. So once you do put in 12OZ as a promo code for a Zingo account, you will be streaming all these phenomenal shows that we can provide to you during these times. And what better way to get your day started than checking out everybody on the 12 Ounce Sports Network. So basically, and also we have a crap load of shirts now that I want to talk to you guys about. I know I mentioned it yesterday, but we do have a mini catalog store now, and with a lot of nice shirts, beautiful. We have white shirts, navy shirts. We even have a golf shirt. I highly recommend each and every one of you checking that out, because these are gonna be hot commodities when everything is said and done. And I'll tell you right now, once the summertime comes, they will be flying off the shelves like no other. So I highly recommend you all check out the mini catalog that we have on the 12-ounce sports store. And once again, make your order now because they are going to be flying off the shelves very, very, very soon. And I highly recommend getting one of each because that's how it goes. So, but yesterday I did speak about my top five, my top five fantasy quarterbacks, top five fantasy tight ends. I also spoke about the Tiger and Peyton versus the Tom Brady and Phil Mickelson match, which was fun, and and of course the return of most of the soccer leagues now, and EPL is returning on I believe June 17th now. So that's really really nice to see. Got a couple weeks now, and you'll have EPL, and like I mentioned before the other day, Serie A and La Liga, Spain and Italy. Their league should be resuming sometime at the end of June, maybe early July. But right now, it looks like things are on board with a lot of sports. So that is very, very, very nice to hear. So today, I brought her in based on high demand, and luckily she doesn't have to work for another hour. So she wanted to come on board. She missed it yesterday, but here she is, none other than the queen on the ice herself, Gina Tucci. Gina, welcome back.
Hi, Pete. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How was everything else?
Good, good.
Good. All right. Well, I'm glad you're back, and it was a wonderful weekend with you.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So here we are. We're back at it. She's been missing this show, so she wanted to come back on. Today is going to be all about AEW Double or Nothing and last night's episode of AEW Dynamite. Next week, I know I mentioned this week that we were talking about Ozark Season 3. However, there was a lot of differences during the week, a lot of differences in scheduling with work, and unfortunately, that will be talked about next week for Season 3 review of Ozark. Next week, stay tuned to that. Also, more fantasy football stuff. I'll be talking about top 5 defenses and kickers, and players that did not make my top 5 cuts, and of course, more NHL news to come. So, AEW Double or Nothing. Biggest night of all Elite Wrestling's year finally came at Daly's Place in Jacksonville, Florida. I thought it was a great pay-per-view. What'd you think?
It was great. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, it was good, and this was the 1-year anniversary of the Revolutionary Company's inception that highlighted 2 high-profile, high-stake matches. So, and once again, they did it again. 2 main events for the AEW Championship and the Stadium Stampede match, which was phenomenal. But Inner Circle and the Elite, basically in a stadium match, which was awesome. It was just a very exciting match. You had Moxley fight Brody Lee for the belt. You had Cody versus Murderhawk Lance Archer for the TNT Championship that Mike Tyson gave out. You also had the AEW Women's Championship match, Hikaru Shida versus Nyla Rose. You had the Casino Ladder match with the 9 wrestlers. We'll get into that soon. Dustin Rhodes versus Shawn Spears, Chris Statlander versus Penelope Ford, and Jungle Boy versus MJF. A huge stacked card, and let's start off real quick with the number 1 contenders match for the AEW Tag Team belts. Best Friends versus Private Party. This was a great match. I mean, it was a top match here. 2 of the top elite tag teams right now that are playing in prime form right now, and Trent and Mark, basically Chuck Taylor and Trent from Best Friends came away with the victory.
They did.
And they're these two tag teams. I was telling this to Gina that these two tag teams are they're baby faced. Everyone loves these 2 tag teams. And she mentioned to me the other night saying, why do baby faces fight each other? And sometimes that's just how it goes. It makes more of a presence to the fans to appreciate it a little bit more. So it's kind of like, who do I take? Who do I want to root for? But at the end of the day, everyone's satisfied. Best Friends come away with the victory, and sometime down the line, they will be fighting Hangman Page and Kenny Omega for the AEW Tag Team Champions. Gina, what did you think about that match?
I liked it. As you said, they're both baby faces, so it's a little bit hard to pick a winner because you like them both.
Yeah.
So I know Private Party. You really like Private Party. So
yeah. Well, listen.
Sorry about that.
It's all right. Well, 24 ounces of vodka cranberry will do the trick,
so
and some gin and juice will do it all. So, as an analysis for this match here, Best Friends winning, I think, was the right choice, even though I do love Private Party. But they've been on TV for the last 2 months. Like, they've been on consistently over the last 2 months on TV. They're dedicating their tag team. They're building it up. They have all the momentum that it takes. Finally making their way into contention for the tag team belts. And then beating a team like Private Party, who's also like, we saw them on AEW Dark. They won 4 or 5 matches in a row.
Mm-hmm.
They've been building some steam. So this was a very good intro to this pay-per-view. And here we go. Taylor and Chuck Taylor and Trent are up on stage now for the big title opportunity. Match itself, like Gina said, action-packed. Encounters for encounters. Great teams. It was, of course, Orange Cassidy had to get involved somehow, but it's exactly what you needed to be. And again, it's nice to see Private Party because they haven't been on the main stream of things, like whether it's AEW Dynamite, which we finally saw them last night on the show, but you haven't really seen much of Private Party unless if you're watching AEW Dark. So it's finally nice to see, and a very successful match. Moving on, the Casino Ladder match. First and foremost, how crazy was seeing both of the SCU teammates battling off against each other.
Yeah. I was wondering why they were in there, but then I was like, oh, are they fighting each other against themselves? So I liked it. I thought it was good. I was kind of, obviously like the Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, basically.
What I didn't get is the countdown. Like I understand it was like a Royal Rumble and like a Money in the Bank ladder match kind of combined.
Yeah.
So what I didn't get is I know it's pre-scripted, but what if somebody won before the last person came out?
Yeah, right.
I was thinking that. I'm like, what? Why are they doing that? Suppose somebody wins, but obviously that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah,
because they were hyping up the last man, the last entry.
Yeah.
But I liked it. I thought, I like when they use the ladders. I like when Marco Stunt came out with this small ladder and did a little thing with Luchasaurus. And that was funny. It was funny.
Yeah, it was like, I thought it was a phenomenal match. Like, I give this like an A all around. You had 9. Well, first off, you had 8 top AEW wrestlers. The 9th was a mystery, and everyone was wondering who it was going to be. Again, I thought it was possibly going to be Rusev. I know I mentioned Brian Cage a couple episodes ago. He's a guy from TNA, Impact Wrestling. Who did you think it was, Gina?
I thought it was going to be somebody from from WWE, like Rusev or somebody from there. I know we talked about maybe one of the guys from the Revolt or the Revival, right?
Well, from WWE.
From WWE.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
We talked about that, but I didn't think they would, separate them.
Yeah, exactly.
Just have introduced one of them, that is. But I liked it. That guy, that last entry guy, Brian Cage. Oh my God! I think both of our jaws just dropped. Like, holy!
He's a big boy. Yep.
He's a big boy. He's a big boy, and he looks scary.
Yeah. He does.
He looks like he has a sty on his eye. I was like, oh, he should use some antibiotic ointment on his eye.
Yeah,
really,
that's pretty bad.
I'm sorry, that's the nurse in me. I'm like, oh, he looks like he has a sty.
He looked better last night, though. It's like, I have to say.
So maybe it wasn't.
Maybe it was just something from the match that he kind of got popped in the eye. And just whatever, and then you have a black red eye from there, a sty. But and then long and behold, Brian Cage came out with the 9th entrant. They had to build it all up. Anybody could have won at any time. You even had, I thought Kip Sabian probably had the most, kind of an easier way to maybe win because he had, Jimmy Havoc with him and he had Penelope Ford.
Right.
That could possibly help him out to steal the win.
Yeah.
But you're fighting Jon Moxley here. And if it's anyone that's going to be fighting Jon Moxley, well, it's not going to be Kip Sabian. It's not going to be any sort of baby face like, I'm sorry, I know you love him, but Darby Allin.
Yeah, I was hoping he would at least do the coffin drop.
Exactly, yeah.
But we didn't see that.
Yeah, no. Luchasaurus, no, because he's going to be fighting Wardlow, I think, at some point. And that sets it up because we saw it last night or the other day. So I really do think that they're going to set that up. But none of those people really, none of those 8 kind of came out to me like, okay, these are going to be fighters that are going to fight Moxley because they're all kind of baby faces. So once Brian Cage came out at 9, I said he's going to win it no matter what because they built it up, and here we are. This guy's a massive Godzilla-looking sort of wrestler.
Yes.
He's jacked. Probably took steroids back in the day. But him versus Mox will be great. You have Taz that's basically accompanying Brian Cage, which is awesome. He's a great talker. I love Taz even from his ECW days. So, but the biggest takeaway to me was Brian Cage's debut.
I thought it was pretty bold that they had somebody, the newcomer come in and win. I thought that was pretty bold, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah. And a lot of they use a lot of the props as well in that match. Once again, I guess from like I just mentioned, Kip Sabian, Havoc, and Ford trying to steal the win. Orange Cassidy, how lazy he was.
Oh, that was good.
That was funny. That was really, really funny.
I know you like him.
Yeah, Orange Cassidy's the man. He's just very lazy with everything from wherever, weighing in at whatever. He's just really funny. That's why the fans love Orange Cassidy. And then you had Taz come out with Brian Cage, and then Cage just basically destroying Darby Allin, throwing him all outside the ring to another ladder and
on a ladder to a ladder,
basically. Yeah. So total badass. He's an unstoppable force. Very impossible to beat. The intro along with the presence of Lance Archer, Wardlow, and Brody Lee. These are 4 big heavyweights now on the roster, all heels, but these are all heavyweight portions of the roster brimming with talent. So so AEW is definitely on their way up and coming, and they also extended their contract to 2023. So we're gonna be seeing a lot more of AEW soon to come. And here we go, Jungle Boy versus Maxwell Friedman, MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, I should say, MJF. Gina, what do you think about that match?
I thought it was an awesome match, really awesome. I really like Jungle Boy. I think he's very, very talented. He's very strong.
Yeah.
And with MJF, you just love to hate him. He's a great wrestler. He's really talented, but you just love to hate him. At least that's how I feel about him.
Yeah. I'm right with you too. This was probably one of the better matches I thought as well. And it's funny because I think JR or Excalibur mentioned it, but they said that between Jungle Boy and MJF, they had a combined 9 years experience of wrestling. I think Jungle Boy had 4 years, and I think MJF had 5. And look how talented they are. For as little as they worked out for the last 4 or 5 years, they've made it pretty damn big, in my opinion.
It was a really, really good match.
Yeah. So, again, I think this was probably one of the best matches of the evening. Every spot meant something. They were going back and forth. One was showing their power, the other one was showing their power, their strength, how hard they could slap each other, and just taking it. MJF targeting Jungle Boy's arm, looking for his finisher, Salt of the Earth, and it was smart. And that was as was the finish. They just proved that the young competitor could just adjust and adapt to the flow of the match. So they were just going back and forth. But listen, these two are the future of AEW. These two. MJF is undefeated, as we know. Jungle Boy, I believe, is about 3 or 4 matches over 500. So these two guys will be headlining pay-per-views as long as they continue to grow and evolve as performers.
Definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah. So on the big stage like this one, a ton of pressure to deliver. After a basically spot-heavy opener, as we saw, but they more than easily excelled expectations, especially for the fans. And I loved it. This was, again, I think this was my favorite match of the night. So
mine too.
Yeah, good.
Mine too.
All right. Cool. All right, here we go. TNT Championship. Cody Rhodes versus Lance Archer for the TNT Championship. Iron Mike Tyson presenting the championship. Gina, what'd you think?
It was awesome seeing Mike Tyson.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, he looks old, but he still looks pretty big.
Yeah, he does.
Looks pretty big. He still looks like he could do some damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks good. As we saw last night, starting a little chaos with Chris Jericho in the Inner Circle last night. Cool. Flexing in front of Jericho. I loved it. Listen, Tyson's only, I think he's in his early 50s. I mean, he could still do it. I mean, Jericho is probably in his 40s, so why not? Why not do this? So I just think that this could be a really, really cool Inner Circle versus Mike Tyson crew in the future, just to have the fans, because the fans are going to watch it. But what do you think about that fight?
I'm really happy Cody won. I was happy to see all, like, his finisher, and then didn't he do Dustin's finisher and somebody else from the Nightmare Families? Yep. That was cool. I think Cody is a very I guess mature, kind of beyond his years competitor. You know, I like how wasn't he, or I like not necessarily in this match, but in other matches, he when the match is over, of course, he goes over, says good job, that's very mature, mindset. And obviously he's the CEO, which I'm very happy about. I love the match. I thought it was great. I'm really happy Cody won finally, but it was just a really great test of strength. I mean, Lance Archer had a huge height and weight advantage over Cody. It was nice to see, the David and Goliath, the David winning. So
yeah, that was nice.
And I'm a huge Cody fan. Not the neck tattoo though. Not a fan of that.
Yeah, neck tattoo has to go. It's pretty bad.
It's bad.
Ugly. But yeah, I mean, Lance Archer is an ex-college quarterback. They mentioned that on the pay-per-view, which I'm shocked because he's like 6'8" and he's about 275 pounds. This dude is a massive bull. I would love to see him versus Brody Lee or Brian Cage down the road. All these big boy heels, I will just absolutely enjoy it. That'd be an awesome fatal four-way for some sort of future championship opportunity. I have all those badass big boy heels. But we know Lance Archer. He's a dominant force. He kicked out of everything, like you said, G. But to this point, I mean, it's just once he's booking, every time he's booked somebody, it's like a squash match. I feel he fought last night. He bounced back in a win, but it wasn't really much of a squash match. It kind of like extended out a little bit, which I was surprised about. But it's and then you talk about Jake Roberts, and I know that Lance Archer, he had success in TNA and New Japan, but that was without Jake the Snake, and he dominated the action without needing Roberts to interfere with anything. But the booking kind of hurt the overall quality of the match. You saw Jake Roberts standing up and a lot of back and forth with Arn Anderson. Kind of like cameras were going back and forth. It kind of really wasn't. It kind of kept my eyes away from that. I really wanted to focus on the match. However, but what helped finish the match, booking aside, was the intensity Cody showed in and out, his emotion expressed after the bell, him winning the belt that wasn't even finished yet because of the coronavirus. Doesn't care. Mike Tyson comes in, gives him the belt, raises his hand. So much emotion. He was so happy. I'm happy for the American Nightmare. This win meant something for him, especially Lance Archer and Jake Roberts. Torturing Brandy Rhodes with putting a snake on her and knocking her out, and Arn Anderson getting hurt, and then Lance Archer basically destroying Dustin Rhodes and making him bleed. This was a family overall win for Cody, and it was just you just saw his intent. He was just intense. He was motivated, very, very emotional.
It was a satisfying win.
It was a satisfying win. So again, I just think that it's kind of weak that Archer has to rely so heavily on Jake Roberts, because I don't think he needs Jake Roberts on his side, because he could do it. He could just dominate without him. So. But that was a good match. Next up, I'm going to let Gina take this one. But Chris Statlander versus Penelope Ford for a singles match. We know that Chris Statlander was supposed to fight Britt Baker, and Britt Baker suffered a knee injury. I'm not sure how long she's going to be out for. I think they said a couple months. But, again, she should be back for the next pay-per-view. However, Chris Statlander versus Penelope Ford. Gina, take it away.
Well, to be honest, I was a little disappointed in the choice of Penelope Ford. I think going from Britt Baker to Penelope Ford is a downgrade. I think Britt Baker is a hell of a lot better competitor than Penelope Ford. So I kind of felt like Chris Statlander was like, oh, all right, I could kick her ass. Yeah, right. But anyway, I enjoy. I like Chris Statlander. She's got her legs are so toned, and she's just really, really athletic. But I would have really liked to see Britt Baker and Chris Statlander. I would really like to see that. I hope I get to see that in the future. Of course, I'm glad that Chris Statlander won.